Hexagram number 43. Breakthrough resoluteness. Be resolute to keep within the correct limits. Breakthrough refers to 2 points of change. When yin flows into the space left behind by yang, and when yang flows into the space left behind by yin. One form of breakthrough follows the other. Through following the correct path resolutely, we find that obstructions give way or break through. If we then exceed the mean by becoming hard and proud, or if we give up perseverance to luxuriate in the improved situation, breakthrough occurs again as a breakdown in relationships. We achieve the first kind of breakthrough by persevering resolutely in the correct attitude. This means we keep emotionally disengaged from situations that tempt us to react in an emotional way. As each emotion approaches, we diffuse its energy by recognizing it and resolutely resisting it. We forego striving, sacrifice grievances, disperse anger and frustration, resist desire, dismantle overconfidence, and sacrifice feelings of rights and expectations. In such ways, we deprive our ego from energy, thus give other people's egos nothing to compete with. By such resolute inner firmness, we strengthen our people's superior natures, and the situation breaks through. By remaining determined to follow this discipline, we invoke the power of the creative that always acts to help those who unselfishly follow the good. When our situation improves, a new sort of resoluteness needs to be undertaken to guard against intervening in others' affairs, to tell them what to think, and not allowing ourselves to slide back into habits of the mind that led to our problems. Then, when success comes, we need to avoid becoming hard and proud, as when we congratulate ourselves for being in the right, we neither rest on our virtues nor measure our progress. Resoluteness means continuing on modesty, determined to stay balanced and on course. Resoluteness then entails being decisive against the passions and fears that take hold in our minds, causing us to lose our sense of limits. As when we depart from acceptance and non-action, or when we allow self-importance to return. Every day we encounter all sorts of ideas. Those we clearly recognize as absurd and unworthy, we immediately discard. Ideas less easily defined tend to linger in our minds until they achieve credibility, simply because we haven't decided what sort of ideas they are. In this manner, they become accepted by default. By default, they slide down into our unconscious, where they continue to influence our thinking and behavior. If it is necessary to bring these ideas to the surface, to see what they really are, when we discover that they are seductive half-truths, we are able to discard them. If unworthy ideas have become habitual responses to situations, we must guard against their return. Once we have withstood the compulsive appeal that such habits put forth as many as 3 times, the habits will have been greatly weakened or even totally overcome. It is important to note that the different hexagrams give us different ways of approaching negative influences. For example, dispersion in hexagram 59 refers to the specific technique of dispersing feelings of anger and alienation. By choosing to give them up, we allow them to float away. We free them mentally as one would let a bird out of a cage. Through employing such images, we gain power over the negative influences. Until we try this imaging technique, we are unaware that such a simple means can free us from something that has heretofore controlled us with an iron grip. When we receive lines in Deliverance, hexagram number 40, it usually means that we are under the influence of subtle and intringent emotions. Forgive me. When we receive these lines in Deliverance, hexagram number 40, it usually means that we are under the influence of subtle and intringent emotions, such as vanity. These emotions are referred to in one line as 3 flattering foxes, and in another as a hawk on a high wall. The hexagram indicates that these emotions must be killed. The act of killing an evil motive requires first that we see it as standing between us and deliverance from obstructions. Then we must conquer in through resoluteness against its influence. We are sincere in our effort that it is killed. It also helps if we mentally imagine ourselves as killing the evil ideas, as in shooting them with arrows. This inner act is successful only if we sincerely want to free ourselves from the habit of mind. Sometimes an evil impulse is ill-defined that we can perceive. We can perceive it only as a general mood corrupting our attitude. The technique for dealing with this sort of situation is described in Coming to Meet. We remain gently aware that the mood is there. We watch it as one might watch a fish in a tank. While we are not able to get rid of it immediately, such means enable us to keep it from getting out of hand during critical moments. For each situation confronting us, the appropriate technique is given in the daily I Ching reading. Each technique requires a certain type of resoluteness. Only resoluteness breaks through the problem. Gradually, through practice, we develop the ability to recognize the appropriate techniques for any given situation. Changing line number 1. Oh, forgive me, one moment. Okay, I'm gonna begin with changing line number 1 again here. Mighty in the forward striding toes. Mistake. Here danger comes from overconfidence and exuberant enthusiasm. We see that we must be resolute in withdrawing from others to bite through the obstacles. Our ego, however, would have us go past. We must disperse alienation. We go past dignified, reserved to be luminant. Forgive me, Lenient. Luminant. I'm going to read that one more time. Our ego, however, would have us go past the point of intended to withdrawal enthusiastically, or we see that we must disperse alienation, but we go past dignified reserve to be to l'unité. This dominance of our ego is intuitively perceived by the other person. Therefore, he returns to defending himself, defeating our purpose. Changing line number 2. A cry of alarm. Fear nothing. Events of images approach that might press us into action. We should not allow self-confidence to cause us to step outside our limits. If we remain aware that we are not yet in a state of balance, we can avoid making such mistakes. Changing line number 3. The superior man is firmly resolved, no blame. The ambiguous situation seemed to compel action, such as turning against someone to bring his wrongs out into the open for redress, or because things seem better, re-entering a close relationship with him. Non-action is called for. However, because he has not corrected his attitude of careless indifference, we do nothing, even though no one will understand why we do not take a stand to conclude matters. No one includes our own inferiors. This line can also refer to thinking it impossible to follow the path. We should not give up on ourselves. We need to be firmly resolved to try to continue on the path, to remain conscientious, and to ask for help. Changing line number 4. If a man were to let himself be led like a sheep, remorse would disappear. Here we encounter the dangers of being resolute. When resoluteness goes to the extreme of being hard, or when in righting ourselves of alienation we become too soft, we depart from the path and are no longer able to hear within. Our feelings harden when we listen to our sense of pride and humiliation, or they soften when we listen to desire. We must sacrifice hardness and resist desire if we are to return to modesty and simplicity, and to reserve and higher balance. To be led like a sheep means that we depend on inner truth. We do not memorize what to say, but allow the right thing to come of itself at the right time. This is possible only if we maintain inner truth. This is possible only if we maintain inner emptiness. We neither listen to clamoring of our emotions, nor pretend to know the right answer in advance. Changing line number 5. In dealing with weeds, firm resolution is necessary. Walking in the middle remains free of no blame. Walking in the middle remains free of blame. Habit symbolized by weeds is strong. We must be resolute against losing inner independence and balance, and against allowing others to cause us to want, worry, or wander. We must keep our serenity. It is necessary to let people who wish to err go on their way, while we remain firmly resolved to not give them up as hopeless. We should not give up on ourselves either, on our ability to persevere and endure others, and to endure the general situation. Changing line number 6. No cry in the end, misfortune comes. Breakthrough has occurred. Things appear much better, but the matter is not entirely resolved. Must guard against losing our reserve, becoming too lenient or compromising in order to accommodate incorrect behavior. We re-enter fellowship with someone while problems remain unresolved. We throw ourselves away. The conditions of equality and justice must be firmly established, not by what is said, but by all the essentials of a person's way of life. We need not harbor anger or hold on bad memories to remind ourselves that the situation is not ready to be resolved. Reminders occur of themselves. We must leave correction or punishment of the evil inferiors to the sage, as this is not the province of action. So long as we hold to any particular grievance, we prevent its correction. The force that heals and corrects cannot respond if our ego stands by demanding results. If we have stabilized ourselves and become freed from pressures to act, we should remain on guard against the resurgence of these pressures until all habitual responses are completely conquered. This completes hexagram number 43.